the Sabbath day, the fourth commandment. Are there restrictions regarding that apply to Christians today in this new covenant era? And what about Jesus? How does he fit in to the Sabbath day? Sometimes I play shadow tag with my grandchildren, and I will step on the shadow of their head and ask them, did that hurt? And of course the answer is no, it didn't hurt, because the shadow is not them. And so it is with these restrictions regarding the Sabbath. I view them as a shadow of the thing to come, which is Jesus Christ. Welcome to Truth Talk with Ed Skipper, published every Monday and Thursday at 6 a.m. Pacific time, where I take the truth of Scripture and apply it to your daily living. Here is the fourth commandment, Exodus 20, verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. It's really interesting that the Pharisees in Jesus' day had 39 regulations about what you could and could not do on the Sabbath day. For example, you could spit on a rock, but you could not spit on the ground. That was considered cultivating the soil and was labor. You could carry or could not carry an orange, not even in your pocket. That was considered bearing a burden, and that was forbidden. But you could cut the orange in half and carry half of an orange. Well, Jesus came along and kind of put an end to this nonsense. In Mark 2:27, it's recorded that he said that man is not made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath is made for man. In other words, it's not meant to be a burden, but a blessing. Now, what we find is that there are people who have Jesus, and there are people who have, quote, religion. People who have religion are inhibited by rules. People who have Jesus are inhabited by the Redeemer. What we find in the New Testament is that there are no obligations for Christians to observe special days, weeks, months, and years. You can find that in Colossians 2, 16 and 17, and Galatians 4, 9 to 11. I'll include all of these references in the description. What we find in Jesus is rest. Our Sabbath rest, you could say, is in him. What kind of rest? It is rest from our works. Our works do not earn us salvation. That doesn't mean we don't do works, but the works we do are because we are in right standing with God. They don't make us in right standing with God. We rest because Jesus paid the penalty for our sin by dying on the cross and rising from the dead, and our faith is in him. Are you finding that kind of rest from works that would earn your way to heaven? Are you finding that kind of rest in Jesus? I pray that you will. Now, this whole topic of the moral law can be very confusing, so check out episode 200 for the purpose of the moral law. And there's going to be much more in Truth Talk about the Sabbath, much more important things to say about that, so stay tuned. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and hit the bell. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe and consider giving the podcast a rating. And until next time, may you find tremendous rest for your soul in Jesus Christ.